Welcome to the Dojo Marketing News Podcast by Explosion Ninja. This week we're going to be talking about guess it. Can you guess? I don't know. Maybe you can. AI overviews and all that jazz. Tim, take it away with AI Corner. What's the latest?
Okay, so this week, finally, OpenAI released their web search product into ChatGPT. So they've been experimenting for a while. You could use Browse with Bing, and then they had Search GPT. Now, ChatGPT with Search, as it's called, is built into ChatGPT, and it's available for all Pro users at the moment, coming to Enterprise later on, and coming to free probably eventually. So lots of excitement here, lots of, hey, this is the death of Google all over X, formerly Twitter. We've been playing with it. I think it's kind of interesting. I think it will be even more interesting in the future. Got some thoughts. Want your thoughts?
I do want some thoughts, but first I actually want to ask Jess, get a slightly different opinion. Have you experienced ChatGPT with Search, ChatGPT Search, Search GPT, whatever it's going to be called? Have you experienced it yet?
I have not. No, but I think my initial thoughts is that this is really great for businesses with a specific audience who are the kind of people, and we've been saying this before, kind of people who are really early adopters and who are using ChatGPT and love it and think it's great and use it every day. But there will be some businesses that this might not necessarily be a priority for them right now over doing like traditional SEO in Google or even doing GEO with a focus on Google. But I think it's one of those things that we could start to see a big shift over. So if you're like, oh, my customers aren't, basically what I'm saying is if you know your customers aren't there, you don't need to rush over. And I would say make sure that your customers are there before you start putting a lot of marketing power towards it. But maybe in the future you'll have some opportunities there, which will be exciting.
Contention, because I'm going to sway the complete opposite way and be like, you should be tackling this now. So maybe we dig into to Tim's thoughts and you can explain a little bit more about why.
It might change my opinion.
Absolutely. Let's have a listen then, Tim. Fire away.
Oh, I love how we started with a very rational take, Jess. Thank you for that. Very balanced up front. Now let's go crazy with this. So, my take on this is really, actually, there's nothing particularly revolutionary or groundbreaking in the functionality here. This feels a lot like Perplexity, where it's doing a background search, it's pulling some web results, and then it's summarizing those results and giving you an answer. Actually, I think the answers aren't as detailed as Perplexity. I've also spotted more hallucinations so far in my test than we were getting from Perplexity. Someone I was talking to over email even spotted hallucination in the websites that are being tested. So actually, it got some of the websites wrong, which was really interesting. I think what makes this a big announcement for anyone in the world of digital marketing is, although Perplexity has been out for some time, it's got around 10 million monthly active users, whereas ChatGPT has 200 million weekly active users. So there is a much larger audience. Of course, not all of those are paying. I think only about 10 million of those are actually paying customers. So we'll have access to it right now. But when ChatGPT does roll this out, the fact is that because so many people have ChatGPT in accounts and it takes up 2/3 of the generative AI tool market, there will be a lot more people exposed to web search using ChatGPT than any of these other models, aside from Google AI overviews, of course, which will be available to 1 billion people by the end of this year. So it seems to work very similar to Perplexity. Results are a little bit detailed. I think the other thing that's interesting about this is it can potentially expand the number of queries that ChatGPT is useful for, because it means you can ask about current news, whereas previously, as soon as there's a knowledge cutoff in the training data, like if you asked ChatGPT about something that happened today, it wouldn't be able to answer that because it doesn't have knowledge of that. Whereas now it can go online, it can quickly learn about that and give you an answer. So it makes it makes the knowledge cutoff fairly meaningless. It has since turned out, to nobody's surprise, that it's using the Bing search index, which all of a sudden makes Bing a lot more relevant than it was maybe a couple of years ago before this AI stuff kicked off. This wasn't mentioned in any of the OpenAI launch posts, but OpenAI and Microsoft staff have since confirmed that it is Bing. So what this means is that ChatGPT is basically using Bing to surface its results and then drawing from that. So of course, all of us who've been optimizing for Google for many years are now thinking, well, of course, we need to make sure that our websites are being ranked well and presented nicely in Bing too. Someone else tested one of their websites and managed to get it penalized in Bing, so removed from the Bing index, and then tested that in fact it was no longer visible in ChatGPT either. So getting it removed from the Bing index meant that it wasn't showing up in ChatGPT. So of course we all need to be in Bing Webmaster Tools, making sure that our sites are not being de-indexed. Of course, ChatGPT and Bing results aren't exactly the same. It's not just literally doing a Bing search and spouting out the answers. We know that these tools like slightly different things to the sort of the general underlying search. But yeah, I think this has made Bing more relevant. I think so far the feedback online seems to be that people quite like this. We're expecting usage to increase steadily as OpenAI rolls this out to more people. And of course, this all just emphasizes the importance of something that we've been talking about for, well, I guess a year and a bit now, this idea of generative engine optimization and making sure that you're showing well in all of these AI search tools. Dale, you're incredibly bullish. Do you want to take the even more bullish perspective than me?
Well, I certainly could. I mean, like, anyone who's listened to the podcast recently will know that I think it doesn't end here. This is just a starting point. The generative search, or whatever you want to call it, search as a field, search marketing is going to develop way past this. This is just a opening salvo. Like, if you go into WhatsApp, if you go into the search part of there, you will soon, if you're not seeing it already, have like Meta AI with Meta's Llama LLM in there providing the answers. But like, they're building a search engine or building an AI answering service within WhatsApp, which is the least likely place that you would think it's going to be. But it's going to be to service stuff like, somebody just mentioned this. I'm just going to quickly Google it. Oh, they mentioned that this service for teaching your child how to sleep alone or whatever in this, dad's group that I'm in. I'm just going to quickly search for that, and WhatsApp bot Meta AI is going to just tell me all about it without me having to leave the platform. So if you think like Search GPT or ChatGPT search is just the beginning, it really is just the beginning, because it's going to expand way past this point. But I actually had a question for you, Tim, which is about if Bing SEO is a part of Search GPT. No, ChatGPT search, they haven't figured out that. Well, maybe they have figured out the brand name for that, but not everyone else has. Because I'm still using the old one that they were using like 2 weeks ago. It's using Bing as part of it, the index, as well as their own LLM, and there's crossover. I think a lot of people might be coming and approaching Bing SEO for the first time. Do we have like an initial kind of point of focus for them, the differences between like Bing SEO and Google SEO?
That's a really good question. We've always taken the position that if you're optimizing and you're promoting to win on Google, you are probably winning on Bing anyway. The algorithm being, I guess, less sophisticated, a little bit more easy to influence. So yeah, as you said, prioritizing links more. Yeah, I think a lot of this goes back to also, if you think about Google's monopoly reading the announcement from the Judge Meta about Google's monopoly, and one of the areas that Google was accused of really, I guess, using its monopoly most effectively was in that it has so much more click data, so it can get feedback about its search results much better than competitive engines like Bing, who don't have anywhere near as much traffic. So they have to rely on other. Whereas Google might, you can use links and it can use content to get websites to the first page and then use click-through rate to decide where they sit on that first page. Bing doesn't really have that luxury. It just has to make an assessment based on data like content and of course links. So it seems to be like the optimizations that we would do from an SEO perspective will be more effective on Bing than Google, particularly in the top few positions. So long story short, if you're doing good SEO, then you're going to be doing fairly well in Bing, maybe better in Bing than you are in Google.
Yeah, I think that maybe Bing does a bit more social listening as well. At least that's what I remember from looking at it. So, not necessarily how many times you've been shared on X or LinkedIn or anywhere else, but being present in those platforms to kind of educate the engine that you are that piece that you've created or the business that that piece represents is credible and should be trusted, and therefore we should rank that page higher. There are some subtle differences, but again, as long as you come at it with like a solid case of create good quality content for people that's going to service them, and not just blasting out 15,000 words or whatever it is just because you can, or that an AI will help you to do that now. Yeah, you're going to have to learn the little sort of differences in its immediate term, because there's probably going to be some tweaks to how Bing SEO works going forward. Because my initial thought was maybe Microsoft were like, oh, our search engine sucks, so let's get this like GPT people in. They seem to know how to do this semantic stuff. We'll get them in to improve our search. And OpenAI have gone, yeah, that's great. Give us the money and we'll just develop our own product and see you later. Like in a year or two, they'll be like, bye, don't need the Bing part anymore. Who knows?
Yeah. It'll be really interesting to see. I mean, Bing's ad revenue just jumped 20% in the last quarter compared to Google's 10% increase. So something is going on with Bing, and whether it's being driven by, I can't imagine it's being driven by all the people flooding to Bing to try and use the Bing chat, the Bing plus ChatGPT functionality, which again is like any of these tools. All of these things are basically doing the same thing now. I don't think there's anything extraordinary about ChatGPT research, and there's it's not actually really new functionality to most of us. But something is clearly going on with Bing, and if they're increasing their ad revenue like that.
But 20% increase on nothing is it's quite. I'm sorry, Bing, but like you weren't exactly flooding the market. Your share of the market was pretty small, so 20% is okay.
Did you see?
Actual fact.
There was some savage beatdowns in the monopoly ruling where basically Apple had been in talks with Microsoft. I think Apple concluded that Microsoft would have to give Apple Bing, give them the whole thing in order to use their search results in Apple. And they said, even then, the results aren't good enough. We wouldn't want to do it. That's brutal. We wouldn't even want it if you gave us the whole thing for free.
Unbelievable.
Oh.
I think anybody who's used it will probably back that up, to be fair. Okay. Jess, your thoughts before we just learn a little bit more about ChatGPT search.
Yeah, I think it's quite funny hearing some of the beatdowns of Bing, and just personally, whenever I use the platform, it feels a little bit old school. But I think there are people who are diehard Bing fans, and again, this isn't really fully relevant to the whole topic, but if you find out that your audience is like hardcore Bing people, then you should be running ads there. And if most of your website traffic is coming from Bing, then it's an ideal place for you to be running ads, because there will be groups of people who are, really diehard in that regard. And yeah, you shouldn't completely disregard it as a platform. But what Dale and Tim are saying is somewhat correct. Maybe in most cases it probably isn't your priority. But yeah, I think as well what you said about like ranking in Google probably means your ranking in Bing is super accurate. But if you want to be sure, you can head over to Bing and type in your chosen keywords and see the types of things that are coming up, and just make sure that you are ranking there. Like, don't take it for granted. Make sure you're double checking that yourselves just in case.
It's a good point about the audience. Is like there are industries where people aren't allowed to install Google software on their devices. They're all Windows, and their default browser is Edge, and the default home screen is Bing, and like there is search volume there. It's not like there's nothing there, and it's it's functional for most of the things that you need it for. It's functional, and they've worked really hard to add loads of different features, and they're quite some quite dynamic search results pages. But yeah, just I don't know. It's a lesson about the winning edge, isn't it? The horse that wins by a nose just gets the lion's share of the rewards, and obviously having a monopoly and maintaining a monopoly helps. Where I think that this is most interesting is actually some of the sort of future possibilities, and I don't want to go off into the sort of the AI sunset here too far, but one of the big focuses internally for OpenAI is this agents thing and the ability to have AI that goes and coordinates and does different tasks for you. So you can give it more complex jobs to do. And one of the limitations of AI agent functionality at the moment is sometimes, so say I said, we're a B2B show, doing some marketing and stuff, talks. Say I said, right, ChatGPT, I want you to coordinate the B2B show for us and make sure the flyers and the stand and stuff is all sorted. Well, it would run off and try and do these tasks, but often it would get one of the first tasks wrong. It would hallucinate or get something wrong. And then the whole thing just sort of folds in on itself, right? Because it's working from incorrect data and it's all just a bit of a pileup. Whereas if there is a web search component there, hallucination should, in theory, decrease, because rather than checking its own intelligence, well, when is the B2B show and where is it? Oh, I don't know, so I'm just going to make up something. It can just go and do a search and it can find the answers. So I think potentially as an unlock to improve the capability of agent models and improve the accuracy, this becomes really interesting, because this is one of the core skills that an AI agent model is going to need to go and look online and find answers. And of course, for us marketers, this makes it all the more important that our businesses, our products and services are being found there. Because if people are using agents to compile different tasks, some of the tasks that these agents are doing will be researching products or services or accreditations or whatever. And we want to make sure that it's your products, your services, your accreditations that are being surfaced in those answers. So this, I think, just the more that these agent models are built out and the more that the research they do is a black box, the more important it is that we are ranking not just quite highly, but really highly for these types of searches and doing the generative engine optimization required to get that visibility.
Yeah, just to build on that point, I saw just this morning somebody fed a construction site video from YouTube into Claude AI. And said, I want you to do an assessment of this site and tell me where there are any health and safety issues and where things, what's the status of the project and stuff like that. And it was clicking around, it was going through the video and it's clicking around the screen and all this kind of stuff, and produced a list of like, here are the things that need to be fixed today and blah, blah, blah. This is like stuff you can go and use the API now. Like, this stuff is here. It's not like it's coming, it's here. You like, before you know it, like I don't want to look too far ahead, but I think it's important to. There are going to be people who are searching for your service, and all this agent stuff is going to do all the work. Like, okay, I want to look for a company that's going to help me use greener energy. It's going to go and do the search and like click around websites, and it's going to come back with, here are 4 businesses, here are the email addresses to use, here are the phone numbers you can call. I checked G2 and 5 other websites for reviews, and this is the social proof, and I've ranked them in order based on the valuation of all this stuff that I found. It's going to do all the work and just give you a list of numbers to call, and you're going to call the first one. Maybe you might double check some stuff, and if that's the case, if your business isn't out in the internet, just occupying every possible space and just telling the world that you're the best, not necessarily just on SEO, like just on Google, like everywhere, these LLMs are just not going to know that about you, and it's gonna hurt you long term. Does that mean you've got a heck of a lot of work coming along in the next 12 months? Yeah, unfortunately so. I'm sorry to say. Like, I wish AI had come to make things easier, but if anything, it's actually come to make things much, much harder for marketers, at least in my opinion. You can use them to kind of free up some of the manual tasking that you're doing, but you're just inheriting more complex work to then try and figure out strategy for and do the analysis. So yeah, it's a fun time ahead. I love it. I'm so pumped.
But most people, most marketers, most businesses just aren't thinking about this at all, are they? It's just not even on the radar. And you could say like, oh, they've deprioritized it. It's not a must do yet. Traffic from Perplexity, traffic from ChatGPT is relatively low at the moment. You could make that argument, but I think most of the time it's not that they've not prioritizing it. It's just that it's not even in their field of vision yet. It's not that they're waiting until the timing is right. That's fine. We can respect that. It's that it hasn't occurred to them that there's this whole other thing going to be happening.
The one thing
anyone who spends time using it, you're like, well, this is so clearly the future.
Yeah, the one thing I would ask of anybody listening or watching this week's podcast is to send this to somebody within your organization who is responsible for like the long-term planning, the strategy and stuff like that. That might be your line manager, that might be somebody slightly a level higher, or you might need to send it via somebody else so it comes to them in the right way. But I would certainly be putting this stuff on their radar, because if they're coming into planning season, whether it's at the end of this year or the beginning of next year for next financial year, whatever it is, they need to have at least seen where the journey is heading to then just decide in the immediate term we're going to focus on generative engine optimization, and that's the stuff we're going to tackle. At least we've got that covered. The second thing I would ask is that you go over to exposureninja.com/review and submit your website for a free website and marketing review. If you are eligible, we'll be able to look across your marketing and tell you where we think the best opportunities are, and send that back to you in a 15 to 20 minute video outlining the priority order, what you should do, where you should focus and stuff like that. So that's exposureninja.com/review. Tim, any final thoughts? I imagine we could talk about this stuff for quite a long time.
Yeah, we will. We'll be back here next week talking about the next version of it. No final thoughts from me. Just don't sleep on this. Like, this stuff doesn't happen every year. These are really big changes. These are really big pieces of software, and the companies are so bullish about their continued development. So just do not sleep on this.
Yeah. One final one on this one from me, and I'd love to know, Jess, your final thoughts if you have any. One of the ways I've been testing how SearchGPT, I'm going to keep calling it SearchGPT, whatever, how it works, is testing real-time events. And I literally typed in that somebody had died, like Quincy Jones yesterday or somebody else. And within like 10, 15 minutes, it had updated and was giving me like real-time information, which is just unreal. Like, Google may surface a few news articles, stuff like that, but not necessarily in real time. To see that happen was extraordinary, and to think that this is the first week of it being out, it will get better and better at like delivering real time information and telling you the score of the football or the cricket, whatever it is. Yeah, Jess.
I think you've covered pretty much anything that I would say. You're both far more knowledgeable than I am on this, so I don't really have anything to add in this
Okay,
instance.
I've got one for you then, Jess, because you're not an AI skeptic, but you're an AI need to be persuaded. Is that fair?
Kind of. I think I'm a bit fatigued. I think I'm AI fatigued. I think that's more how I would describe it.
Are you excited by searching via ChatGPT? Is this going to change your habits, do you think, at all?
I don't think so. But also, when you've got a habit that's like 20 years in the making, it's not necessarily going to be changed that fast. But I can potentially see some tasks that I might head to ChatGPT search for if I kind of wanted that search and chatbot experience at the same time, which I can think. But if I'm thinking of myself as like a consumer and, day-to-day stuff, I think it would take a lot for me to trust an AI to like book me a holiday or book me a hair appointment or figure out something that I could maybe do in like 5 minutes. I think it is going to take a lot more trust and a lot more use cases for me to trust it for like my everyday stuff. Like, I can envision if I'm like, hey, sort me out a route to go somewhere, and I just end up in a completely wrong place. Like, there are definitely, I need to see more use cases, I think, personally. And I think a lot of people will be in the same boat where they're like, well, Google does what I need. So, you'd be surprised how many people will continue to do something that is more long-winded or maybe seen less convenient by other people just because it's what they know. And I think we're going to see that for potentially quite a while in terms of like general consumers, really.
Yeah, it's great context. I think it's good to stay grounded in like what actual people are doing on a daily basis, because the danger of spending all your time on like the future is that you think that everyone's there already, and your perspective is always so valuable on that, because you're like, well, actually, hold on a little bit. Charlie at Exposure is another one. She's like, well, yeah, but what are people actually doing right now? It's like, yeah. No, you're fair.
Yeah, like just purely anecdotal, but multiple times this week my partner searched something on Google and I've heard him go, oh, I don't want to read the AI, I want a result. And I'm like, I wonder how many people are having that same experience where, you know, I've searched things using Google's AI and it's given me things that are just not helpful. Like it was something to do with like holes in my jeans, and I was like, how can I darn them? And it was like, cover them in talcum powder so that they don't happen again. And I was like, that is not, you're obviously taking things from like one source and another source and trying to combine them, and it just hadn't worked. And I know it's only going to get better with time, but I think a lot of people, we've got the situation, haven't we, where people are jumping onto it because it's interesting, it's not working in the way they expect, and then they're going to be more reluctant to revisit it a second time around, I think. And they're going to really need to see the proof. And there is going to be, I think some of it is going to be social proof of people in their lives saying, oh, just use ChatGPT for that. I think, yeah, you've kind of got to, like I said, have a few more use cases and have more of the general population using it for the stuff that it's kind of being promised to do, but then is not yet been doing. Like, I would love to be able to search and ask a follow-up question. I think that is something that does appeal to me about Search GPT. But at the same time, I think I'll just be like, oh, Google, that's what I do. That's built into my soul at this point.
Weird that SGE had that. Google had follow-up questions in SGE when it was testing it, and then when it rolled out to AI overviews, they just disappeared. I don't know why, but there we go. Anyway, another story.
Tim, how much of your current search activity is in ChatGPT versus search? Are you going like all in on one or the other, or are you comparing every search that you do?
I would say my search activity is entirely in Google, but there are a whole range of tasks I carry out in AI, which are dramatically, that would have been many, many searches in Google. So if I need to find something, or, you know, I was looking to book an in-person podcast studio this week, that's just all in Google. There's no way I'd, you know, I think a lot of commercial searches are still on Google. In fact, all of my commercial searches are still on Google. But then, you know, I built this chatbot in Claude to be a sort of a professional coach, and it's been really sort of whipping my ass, really telling me all of these things that I need to be doing. And I think if I would try to replicate that output through Google searches, it would take me a long time. It really would. There'd be many, many dozens of searches over weeks or months, but that whole thing was replaced by a few conversations with Claude. So I think, yeah, for me, it's sort of forked. I use search maybe less than I did, but for everything that I do need to search, it's all Google.
Interesting. I downloaded the Chrome extension, the new ChatGPT search Chrome extension, which replaces Google search in the Omni bar, whatever it's called, the address bar on Chrome. So it's defaulted all of my searches to there. I would say about 60% of the time I have to open a second tab, and then do a Google search for the thing that I wanted, because I'm often just typing in whatever it is I'm looking for, some key phrase, keyword, whatever it is, and expecting it to go to like an image search or something like that. Like I was looking for, you know, the Google logo or something like that, and I just instinctively wrote it into the address bar, and it was coming back with like a ChatGPT return and stuff like that. It was interesting to see the difference between the one and the two, and how much a percentage of the searches that I'm having to go and redo elsewhere because ChatGPT's response just isn't in line. It doesn't quite understand the intent of the search, is going too literal sometimes. Like Google font was created by whoever and blah, blah, blah. I'm like, no. I just want, the Google font, the logo. I was like, no, I just want the logo so I can copy paste it into the thing I'm doing. Like, you know, you're not really understanding me. But like as an experience, the one thing I've noticed I'm liking about AI overviews is the comparison. Is like, I love how much briefer it is. Like I come in to do a search in Google and it's just getting to the point really quickly. It's just saying, yes, this thing, or do this thing. Like, and then the option to learn more is there. Whereas ChatGPT, I'm literally like, when I open a blog nowadays, like who reads blogs anymore? But like I'm scanning through it and going like headline. Yeah, okay, I get the general gist. Most of the time I just want what Google search already does with feature snippets. They just summarize it. I don't need like an entire, discussion, a conversation. So I think it's got a lot to learn in terms of like user experience and like how much is enough. What was the real intent behind the search for that key phrase or question?
I think that, sorry, I know we're going a long time on this topic, but there's something really valuable in there. I was talking about this on LinkedIn and someone commented something like, or ChatGPT search is only going to get better. And I thought, I don't know how it gets better. The reason that Google search gets better is because it has that click feedback from billions of searches every single, like 8 billion searches every single day. That's 8 billion clicks or no clicks. And it can see, okay, if we put this here, we get more clicks. ChatGPT search has none of that. It has no feedback at all. Yes, you might click on one of the links, but you're probably not going to. The click-through rate is going to be nowhere near as high, right? So I don't know how they get that feedback loop to iterate and improve these results to the same extent that Google does, which will make it interesting to see how they really transform this. How do they get feedback on how much people are liking the results? I don't know about you, but I never click the up thumb or the down thumb. Why would I bother? There's no sort of benefit to me at all with that. Whereas with Google, the beauty is that the feedback is built right into the usage, just like TikTok. So, yeah.
I wonder how much segmentation and data analysis is at play. Like there will be analytics on each search. They will have will track user engagement time. How long was this conversation? Before, how long was this time on that tab before they opened up another tab? How long were they in this chat before they opened a new chat to type a new prompt and stuff like that? And they'll just have to categorize it. The query was X long, or the query had this intent because we used our own AI to figure out what the intent of the search was and stuff like that, which actually just reminds me of something. Apparently, Google has well, I think we've known for years, switched more towards like we understand the semantics of stuff, and we're trying to understand how helpful content is, which is why you get like the helpful content update, algorithm update, and stuff like that. But they, as far as I would imagine, they're using their own AI to assess the quality of content without the need for links. I mean, they obviously they still use links in the platform, but their intention, I think, for a long time is to judge the quality of something based on what they learned about it through content and assessing it and giving AI to make the determination if content is good or not, versus Bing, where they're like, we don't have that semantic clever stuff. We don't have our own AIs and LLMs and stuff. We're going to hire it. We're going to purchase part of a company and get them to come in. So they are relying heavily on links. And I think maybe they're going to move towards that kind of semantic, use AI to assess the quality of a piece of content stuff. And we'll use we'll use humans to just double check stuff. That they do with the human quality guideline people. I'm sure they have a proper title, but I do wonder if like links work for Bing for the immediate term, but they will gradually get phased out. Still important because you need those votes of confidence that links are, but whether it will make an assessment of an entity based off mentions around the web, what it learns about that business, that entity, and goes, oh, okay, I can understand this without having to measure the links at all, because you can't always guarantee a link. I imagine Google doesn't trust links because they can be by some people manipulated. Yeah, I find it interesting.
It is fascinating. Should we have some cookies?
Yeah, I want dessert now.
I did say I felt like my story is somewhat literally dessert to the AI story. Yeah, so if you're like me and you spend a fair bit of time online and on YouTube, you've probably heard the name Crumbl cookies because they are very, very popular. And I think even if you don't live in the USA, you are still hearing about them because maybe influencers that you follow are posting about them, whether that's in a good light or a bad light. It really depends on your circles. But essentially, Crumbl cookie, I think it's Crumbl cookie. I'm not sure. Crumbl, I'm just going to call them Crumbl, are a cookie like franchise in the US that has a menu of weekly rotating flavors. If you're watching on the video, Tim is sharing their website now. And essentially, every week they change what flavors are available across all their national locations. So some of the examples on the screen now are like just a normal chocolate chip. They've got a peanut butter blossom, strawberry cupcake. I think they have like a traditional ice cookie. The photography on the website is amazing. They look very, very tasty. In terms of popularity, I've seen people asking if they should drive 45 minutes each way to try a new flavor that maybe they missed previously that's come back, or that, they kind of want to like just try because it's new. Sorry, Tim has just showed as well that they have over 400,000 reviews. 400,000 reviews. I'm not sure what review platform that is, with an average review star of 4.5 stars. Something else that I noticed as well is that there's an entire Reddit community dedicated to Crumbl, and I would suggest potentially from the branding, it's very, very pink, very sleek, that it's potentially a bit more of like maybe aimed more at feminine people, you know, people who like pink, people who like this kind of aesthetic. So it's quite interesting that they have quite a strong Reddit community. And even more interestingly, they have a spoilers thread that like shows the upcoming flavors in a really nicely made graphic that is not made by Crumbl, may I add. These are like leaks of the flavors that are coming up. And it's covered up for people who genuinely want it to be a surprise because they're so dedicated and they build this into their week and they look forward to it. And all this to say, really, that the scarcity marketing of this thing and just making it like having fantastic product photography can sometimes really be key to like blowing up, you know. And they've got, I hate to say it, the products are really Instagrammable. Like the cookies, they have their standard cookies, but the more eccentric flavors, you know, they're very aesthetic, very pretty, very cute, very kind of things that you would want to share on social media. And they actually have 9.5 million followers on TikTok. And I think pretty much it's all just like social media driven. They are running some ads. I did have a look. They're running a few ads. But something as well that I heard about recently, I think this was kind of one of my introductions to them, is that some people flew from Australia, brought a load of cookies, like few $1,000s worth, flew back and then sold them in Australia for like $17 a cookie and sold out because just the spread of this brand and people were so willing to try it. And I mean, you know, it was the classic, people were trying it and the main person on the channel was like, oh, they're so good, as everybody around them is like, no, they're not. Why are you saying that? Like they're, you know, but I mean, what did you expect for like 2-day-old cookies that have been flown from one continent to another? But yeah, it's really fascinating. From what I've seen, people, you know, either love them or hate them. A lot of people have judgments on them. A lot of people feel that they're not worth the price or that they're overhyped. But with anything like this, people are going to think it's overhyped. You know, it's very easy content for someone to be able to say every week, oh yeah, I'm going to go buy my 5 flavors of Crumbl cookies and then do a mukbang and eat all 5 of them in a row, which seems to be quite popular. At that point, you're not enjoying them. I think after the first one, any that I have after that, I'm not going to be able to taste them just because of like the sugar. But yeah, I don't know if either of you had heard about Crumbl, if you'd seen any of the popularity or the backlash, or what you think of this whole situation, really. No, it's quite different to what we were talking about before, but at least you can, you know, give your brains a little rest.
Yeah, I'm aware of Crumbl, and because of the scarcity stuff. So I also heard about it via some people on YouTube. I think they were maybe live streaming or something like that, and it was part of the part of the commentary as whilst they played a game or something. I don't know. But they were talking about, oh yeah, have you been to the one of this? No, you have to get to this one a little bit early. No, if you get there at this kind of time, then you'll be able to get stuff before they run out. And it literally was like, you think of like Krispy Kreme's branding, the whole thing that attracts people is really, really simple. Like the idea of like the sign is on, the donuts are fresh, you can go and get a free one if you go and stand up. You can even watch them being made. There's a little bit of a gimmick there. Gimmicks sell. Like this is proof. Like gimmicks sell, and just the simplicity of it all can really, really work. I'd never imagined for a moment it could work to the level that they've done it. I noticed that I just did a quick chat search GPT thing, and it's all franchise based. There's 880 locations across the US. Oh. Like just rinse and repeat. You figure out a system, figure out, you know, something that works. There you go. Just get other people to foot the bill. It's like the McDonald's approach. Just, you know, get everyone to pay for the thing, and you just go out there with a brand and just don't muck it up. Like Subway as well. Subway is also mostly franchise, I think. Thoughts?
These things fascinate me because it's never an accident, right? It's never an accident. You know, if you can get over 430,000 reviews for a freaking milk chocolate chip cookie, something is going on here. And I think we should probably do a bit of a brand teardown of this, because clearly there's an influencer play, clearly, to get that volume of reviews. So that 430k is not for Crumbl. That's for the milk chocolate cookie. And
What?
they've got an app. Yeah, right. And they've got an app where you download it to give your review on your cookie. So there has to be some real hardcore review incentivization. If anyone knows what's going on here, do let us know. They've also got sort of 3 different collaboration potential things. It looks like they've got a content creator thing, which looks like you can join their creator community where you get perks and rewards for talking about them. So that looks like a sort of a UGC play. Let's see how much UGC we can get. Then if you're already established, you can partner with them. So that looks more like a kind of influencer play. And then they've got a brand partnerships thing where they want to work with other companies. And that, yeah, I mean, to me, the success looks kind of interesting. They've got to a point where if you're a creator, you can actually grow by talking about their brand, which I think is always a really nice place for this type of influencer-driven company to get to, where you actually want to talk about them because it gives you more credibility and it gives you something new to talk about, and you can tap into the Crumbl audience. So that's pretty cool. But yeah, I have so much respect for this. To take something as generic as a cookie, and yeah, sure, they've got some like quirky ones, they've got some cool boxes, but this is nothing that you wouldn't find in like a, I don't know, if you go to Bristol, there's probably a whole heap of places like this. So how does the Crumbl get out of that noise and become like a national and international phenomenon to the point where, Jess, you can't even get Crumbl cookies, but you want them? Like, you have to go halfway across the world to go and get these things. But
yeah, it's really interesting as well, because I was saying, you know, a lot of the influencers that I follow have kind of been like, oh, this is kind of ridiculous and the cookies aren't even that good and stuff. And I've like got a trip in like over a year to the US, and I was genuinely like, do you know what? If I was walking past a Crumbl, I would probably, that none of the cookies are vegan, so I can't, but I would probably be intrigued, and I would probably be like, do you know what? Yeah, I will give this a try. And just be, but I think I would be quite aware. I wouldn't be like, do I drive 45 minutes out of my way to go try this cookie? Like, no. But I think I would be like, I wouldn't big it up too much. But I think, you know, if we were like, oh, we really want a cookie, Crumbl would be the first cookie place that would come to mind. And I don't even live in the US. Like, I couldn't tell you any other cookie brands at all in the US, but I can tell you about Crumbl, which maybe their reach is too big. But at the same time, you know, they've opened up since that whole Australia incident. I think I saw on their TikTok, like they've got a TikTok account for Australia now, which implies to me they are going to start franchising over there, because actually some people did the work for them and like flew all this way and spent their own money to bring Crumbl to Australia. And it was so successful that now actual Crumbl are like, well, why don't we franchise it to people like this? You know? So yeah, it's ridiculous, completely ridiculous. But like you said, Tim, it's not an accident. And if they can make small people feel important by being like, well, you create cool content. It doesn't matter if you're a really little content creator. You can still create content and potentially get rewards from us. It just makes them feel really, really like connected to the brand, and then they want to promote it, because a lot of influencers, a big draw for them is those kind of collaborations. So yeah, it's very interesting, and yeah, cool case study. Whether the cookies are good or not, whether it's kind of this sort of, you know, a bit of a fad, who knows? But it's really interesting, and you can often apply these things on a smaller scale to your own businesses, whether it's just making your customers feel like part of a community and giving them reasons to want to shout about you and want to talk about you. So
I think the other huge lesson for this is the importance, if you're going to be a social first brand, the importance of having good visuals. And I know that sounds so obvious, but you know, they've got pictures of a milk chocolate cookie that make it look insane. And it's just a milk chocolate cookie, right? There's no special ingredients. I checked the ingredients list. It's a milk chocolate cookie.
yeah.
But compared to like the stuff that you'd see, you can see milk chocolate cookies on a Sunday night in a petrol station on the A3, and you wouldn't even want to touch them with your bare hands, right? It's the same stuff, but because it's presented in a way that's so much more appealing, you're like, whoa, you know, nice pink branding, it's all quirky, it's so Gen Z, it just looks amazing, doesn't it? And it's just another reminder about how important the visuals are in any business that you're going to try and push on social.
Yeah, and I know you sort of dismissed the box. Just last thing I wanted to mention, you were kind of like, "Oh, they've got a nice box," but that box is so striking, and it has Crumbl in massive letters. And I think they even had—I don't know if it was kind of an in joke on that collaborations page, but they had a little Pantone square with Crumbl pink on it. So they really have like really, people know when they see that color, that means the cookies. And I think, yeah, it's all by design. It's very rare that these things come to overnight success just by accident. Like, unfortunately, you could be the best baker in the world, but if nobody knows about what you're doing, you're never going to be able to get your products out there. So I think, yeah, it's all by design.
Yeah.
If I was so inclined, I would replicate what a company in the UK did in the late 90s, early 2000s. It's a coffee shop called Seattle Coffee Co. And it was before Starbucks came to UK, and they just did, nice coffees with milk and stuff, and they wore green aprons and stuff like that. That had a very like metropolitan feel. If I was so inclined and I knew how to cook or bake or whatever, I would open a very similar kind of thing where I am right now, since there's a gap in the market until Crumbl come around, and then Crumbl can just buy my company and have all the properties and all that jazz. Like, if there's a gap there right now, get 6 months out of it, money in the pocket. If I was so inclined. And if you're inclined to get better marketing done this year or prepare for next year, we need to actually turn some of today's stories into tasks. So I know it's really obvious that the search GPT stuff should be the one, but can we pick the Crumbl one to turn into tasks instead?
Yeah.
Amazing. Right. So, Jess, which task can marketing managers take from your lovely, delicious, sugary, sweet story?
That's a really good point. And I genuinely think it's the good product photography, because this is a conversation we've had actually a couple of times today, which is about really good product photography. And I think you said, Dale, or one of the two of you said, you get one good photo shoot and that can carry you really, really far in your business. So I think if you are running a business that has physical products, getting really fantastic photos of them should be a priority. And if you're like, oh, I sell so much, just, start with your best sellers. And then work backwards from there. Start with your best sellers, then start with the ones that you're struggling to shift. Because good product photography can take you a long way. So that should be, your task from this.
Yeah, I definitely think that applies to service businesses too. Like, just high quality imagery or videos and multimedia on your website or on your socials can make a massive impact, even for the most boring things like aggregators and whatever.
Yeah. And I think it expands even beyond that into branding as well. We used to do a thing at the shows where we'd put website A and website B up on the screen, and website A is like some horrendous out of date monster, and website B is some like clean, slick looking thing. And we get people to vote which business has cleaner toilets, which business has better staff perks. They'd all say that the clean looking website was a better business by any margin. And of course, the punchline is that it's just a redesign of their website. And for 10K, I've just managed to fool all of you that this business has better pension enrollment terms for their employees. But we all judge things on first impressions, don't we? And these businesses are so heavily carried by the visual first impression, because you can't taste a cookie until you've already bought it. So they have to get you to buy it by convincing you that it's some like next level experience. And they do that through the look and feel of the website and the branding.
Yeah, super smart. Tim, which task can business owners in particular take from the Crumbl story?
Sort your branding out. Like, be honest with yourself. If your business looks like it before, then fix that. Because everything you do in marketing, we've seen it so many times, everything you do in marketing, it's like you're driving with the brake on if your thing looks like shit. So make it not look like that, and everything will be slightly easier. So yeah, just let's all be a little bit more crumbly.
Absolutely. As I write down the timestamp to blur out, to bleep out the swear
Sorry.
word. It's okay.
Tim just gets passionate.
Absolutely. Well, if you're passionate about the podcast, it'd be great to hear from you. If you email us at podcast@exposureninja.com, tell us what you think and how you feel about the podcast and what you'd like to hear us talk about in the future would be great. Otherwise, you can head over to your favorite podcast platform and leave a review telling us all of your opinions and thoughts and feelings. It'll be really nice to read those too. Otherwise, it'll be great to see you this time next week, hopefully, over on YouTube or wherever you listen to podcasts. But if you want to hear more podcasts, go to exposureninja.com/podcast. You can hear 300, 400 plus podcasts right now. It's been fun. Take care, yourself.
Busy. Bye-bye.
Yeah.
Bye.
Bye.